Welcome to NCSS Here for You. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. We take our role in the community seriously and strive to provide the highest quality services. According to Eric Erickson, a noted developmental psychologist, every person must pass through a series of 8 interrelated stages over the entire life cycle. NCSS provides a continuum of services to meet the needs of individuals who at any point seek assistance. NCSS's purpose is creating a stronger community, one person at a time. Now, let's get to today's show.
I'm Joe Halco, Director of Community Relations for Northwestern Counseling and Support Services, and welcome to another episode of NCSS Here for You. Each month on this program, we discuss a human services topic, and we do that with staff from one of our 3 service divisions. Our 3 service divisions are Behavioral Health Services, Children, Youth, and Family Services, and Developmental Services. And on occasion, we have guests from organizations that NCSS collaborates with throughout the year. This month's episode is titled, Addressing Adolescent Substance Use. Not a day goes by without hearing another news story about substance use and its effect on adolescents, families, and communities. It's important to note that no community is immune from this epidemic. The substances that are used, and in some cases abused, are varied, but the results can be devastating. Today we'll discuss how NCSS clinicians work with adolescents in an attempt to change behavior and who we partner with in the community to make a difference in young people's lives. To discuss how NCSS is addressing adolescents and their use of substances in greater detail, I'm pleased to introduce this month's guests. They are Kayla Tatro, NCSS Master Clinician in Adolescent Services, and Mary Groton, NCSS Substance Use and Mental Health Clinician. I'd like to welcome both of you to the show.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you.
So let's get started with, what is our role and how long has NCSS been providing substance use treatment services for adolescents?
So I'd say it's been about 10 years now that we've been providing treatment for adolescents, and we offer a variety of different treatment models. So individual therapy, we have group therapy, we also have adolescent case management for youth that have substance use issues. And in addition, we work really closely with our adolescent services team, so we can refer for further supports around employment, or if there's a need for family support services, we can refer off that way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's probably important right at this point to note that NCSS deals with adolescents and substance use as opposed to also adults. Mm-hmm. I think because there's confusion sometimes in the community as to who is the organization that you deal with when it comes to substance use. So I just want to make sure people understand that NCSS deals with individuals that are adolescents.
Right.
But when people become adults, they then deal with the Howard Center for that.
There can be some wiggle room around that if we have a deep previous relationship with a youth, if they're still in high school, things like that. So the cutoff isn't there necessarily 18.
We have a little wiggle room to serve to 22 in those sort of cases. Yep.
Now, you talked a little bit, Kayla, about interventions that we do, but let's again explore what types of interventions we do offer, because I think that's important to see the breadth of what's being offered by us.
Yeah. So one of our programs, we have the Juvenile Treatment Court here in St. Albans. It is the only one in the state of Vermont. And what that is, it's an opportunity for youth who have been adjudicated as a delinquent to not only get the support to start making healthier choices, but also they have the opportunity to have their charges waived. So it's a sort of diversion program. The program seeks to establish accountability with youth, to take responsibility for themselves and for their actions, and also to make better choices and to help the community as a whole. So one of the things that they're required to do is 30 hours of community service. So that can be anything from walking dogs, or there was one youth that was brushing cats for quite a while at the Humane Society. They had some feral cats. I think they were getting them used to being handled by people. We also have youth who are working with the Department of Health, picking up cigarette butts in the community, all sorts of different things, whatever they can do to make themselves feel part of the community and like they have something to work for.
Now, what are we seeing when youth present substance use treatment services to us?
We're still seeing youth presenting with the top two issues that we have been for many years, which is with marijuana use and alcohol use. I know we hear a lot about the opioid epidemic. I mean, we have some youth, I think, dabbling with opioid use, but usually when they're coming to us as a young teen, they have not gotten into a full pattern of addiction with opioid use. So I'd still say that's pretty much what we're observing.
It is. We do have waves, trends, or
Yes.
fads. We've had a lot of use with DXM, dextromethorphan, which is an ingredient in cough medicines. And that is very abusable and can create some dependencies for that. Currently, right now, we're seeing a lot of cocaine use among youth.
And I would also say Xanax. Yeah,
Xanax
some
and
of the
cocaine have been
benzos.
very popular lately. And I myself have conversation with Jim Hughes, the state's attorney, to try to figure like where is this trend coming from, and how is this getting into
Yes.
into our community, and how into the hands of our youth.
And I think it's important, Kayla, you mentioned alcohol, and with everything else that's going on, I think a lot of times what kind of gets almost buried is the fact that
Absolutely.
still
Yep.
Right.
is probably the number one abused item that you see. And I only say that because, as you're saying, you see trends, certain things are coming and going at higher levels.
Right.
But it seems like the alcohol, it's always there, and it's something that really needs to be looked at and dealt with.
We definitely do. We see youth that come in with tickets because they've been either caught at a party or someplace under the influence of alcohol. So usually that's one route. They can go through a diversion program
Yes.
and access treatment in order to not have to go through the court system. So we're really supportive of that. Early intervention is great. So we would definitely like to see youth coming in for treatment rather than just punitive actions being taken.
Sure.
Yeah.
Alcohol use, that's come up at several meetings that it's almost been forgotten.
Yes. Yeah.
That area of use, because the opioids has taken so much of the social media and news and all of this, and just the manner of the way that people use, I think it's created a lot of discussion. But alcohol is really still I think the number one reason why people seek treatment.
Now, what does the partnership look like with the schools locally?
Well, right now we have a substance abuse clinician at every local high school, so we have 5, at least one day a week. So we've co-located a clinician there, and that's actually grown, because when we started, I want to say, close to 10 years ago, maybe like 9 years ago, with a clinician one day a week at Enosburg High School, and found it to be a great success. It solved a lot of the transportation problems of youth trying to get to St. Albans to see a clinician, and I think it also cut down on stigma. It was a warm handoff.
Sure.
Somebody in the school can introduce us. They didn't have to go all the way to NCSS to access the service. So from that successful partnership with Enosburg High School, we've reached out to all the other local high schools, and we are able to integrate a clinician. So currently, right now, I'm at MVU one day a week. Mary is at Enosburg one day a week, and then we have Laura Companion, who covers BFA Fairfax, BFA St. Albans, and Richford High School.
Now, I also understand that NCSS clinicians have all been trained in 7 Challenges framework. Could you explain what that means and how that operates?
Sure. So 7 Challenges is a framework that came out of Arizona by a man named Dr. Schwabel, who actually we had a chance to meet. He came out and did a site visit after we were trained in the model. And so he was working with adolescents substance treatment, and just started to put together kind of a framework of what was working with the youth that he was meeting with. So he was really pushing the model of, meeting youth where they're at. So not coming in with an agenda and saying, like, you can't use this, you can't use that, look what this is doing to your life. So instead, we're going to be mindful that there's often reasons that youth are using, whether that's a self-medication, whether that's to help with sleep, whether there's usually some beneficial reason that youth are accessing substances. So we're going to come in with an open mind. We're going to encourage youth to be honest and open about their use. We're going to talk about those benefits, and we're also going to get at, what are some of the negative things as well. And by having those conversations, looking more at, what responsibility do you have? What are things that are out of your control in your life, and where would you like to go from there? So what goals do you have in the future? What are your goals now? How can we support you in meeting your goals? So it really is youth-driven, where the youth says, maybe it's rooted in harm reduction. So maybe the youth comes in and is like, well, I think my alcohol use is problematic. I'm noticing on the weekends I'm binging a lot. It's not healthy. I'm making poor choices. But I'm only smoking weed, maybe socially with friends here and there. So I want to stop abusing alcohol, but I'm okay with my marijuana use. So we will meet the youth right there and work with them on their goals as is. As what we're finding is if you come in with an agenda, it's not likely going to be a positive result. So that's definitely what the model kind of pushes is, meeting youth where they're at. And it also has another kind of unique component of journaling. So they're structured journals. There's 9 of them that youth can use while they access the program. So not only is there a talk therapy going on, but the journaling is used as a form of kind of written therapy. The youth will answer the questions in the journal. The counselor takes a look through it and actually responds to the journaling. And the journals are set up to have them, again, thinking about their use, thinking about being open and honest. So it really matches up with the framework of the model. So that's been a cool kind of different thing that we had never done before is this journaling process back and forth. And it's just interesting to see how those conversations can be different, in person and on paper.
Now, does NCSS offer a weekly group for adolescents that's based in this 7 models challenge, or 7 challenges model?
We do. So Monday afternoons at 3:30 to 5, we host the group at Vermont Adult Learning because NCSS rents a space there. And it's, again, a very youth-driven group. So we begin the group with the journaling that I just talked about, and then we do a small check-in. And as part of the check-in, one of the questions that's asked is, what do you want to work on today? So the youth all have a chance to say if there's something pressing that they want to talk about, they can bring it up and talk about it. And it can be anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be substance related. It could be, I had a fight with my mom last night and that's really bothering me. So there's time for the youth to bring up the topics that they'd like to talk about. And then if we run out of time, we usually supplement with some activities. But I think the really nice thing about the group is it's using other peers to help youth kind of learn some problem-solving skills. There are group facilitators there, but often you'll see like a youth will start talking about, I have this issue with my mom, and other youth can kind of speak up and give some feedback. So it's really kind of building peer supports as well.
Yeah, that's terrific. Now, earlier, Mary, you talked about the Franklin County Juvenile Treatment Court, and again, it being the only one in the state of Vermont, and I think it's been active for maybe a decade or...
A little over 10 years.
It's over 10 years, okay. And which is terrific, and of course, just by virtue of it's the only one, it's unique. Can we talk a little bit about maybe some of the successes? Because, when you talk about having this in place, that's terrific. But also, for every 10 individuals who go through a program or what have you, there's a certain number that are really going to have achieved some success through it. Is there anything that you can kind of share that might show the positive outcomes of that particular program?
We've definitely had youth that have successfully graduated and gone on to college, gone on to several amazing things. And I think we need to look at success very differently Success isn't necessarily, oh, this person is sober and clean and they are never going to use again. That's not always the case. How I like to view it as, where would that person be had it not been for treatment court?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, there is some recidivism. Like there is.
sure.
That's just the nature of the work that we do. But oftentimes you can see the youth would have been far worse off had they not had the skills and the support that they had in treatment court moving forward. And also, Kayla touched on it briefly a little bit, reduction of harm. We use harm reduction models. And harm reduction is reducing the harm that substances may cause to a person in their life, not necessarily reducing the substances. Usually, studies have shown if a person has housing and a job and has all these other things and stuff, then they are in a better place to reduce their use if they choose to. So that's kind of the model that we've been following. The group, the 7 Challenges group, all of our youth that are in treatment court are mandated to attend that group. That is a safe space for them. Whatever is said in that group stays in that group. Unless, of course, we are mandated reporters. We have the, if someone is hurting you or if someone is going to hurt you, you are being hurt or you are hurting someone else. Those are the things that we need to disclose to the proper channels. But anything that is said in that group and anything that is said in my office, Kayla has a couple of the youth at times for treatment court if there's a conflict. But that's a safe space. Like that information does not travel out of there.
You make a great point when you talk about the success thing, because you're right, it's each individual.
Absolutely.
And what occurs in their life having gone through the program is going to be very different. And, as you say, it doesn't mean the way certain people look at success. Success can, for some people, be a very small step, but it then, in the end, means a lot to them.
Absolutely.
Where somebody could look at it from the outside and go, wow, look at what's been achieved. And again, both are very important and very critical, but they look very different.
I mean, we've had youth that haven't gone to school in long periods of time, and they're able to re-engage with high school. And I mean, that's a success.
That's a huge success.
Absolutely.
A lot of small.
Even for a youth to be able to come in, meet with us, stay in a 50-minute to an hour session, and that's a success. They've had a lot of different people in and out of their lives. If they've had DCF custody, they may have had numerous placements. Residentially and non. So building that trust, I think that's a success. If you can, so it's different on every level.
Sure. Now, how does NCSS partner with DCF relative to assessments and referrals?
So I think I have most of the DCF youth. I think I've worked myself into that role somehow. So I keep a Monday afternoon slot open for DCF youth. That's their first offer deployment that I can give to them. It's a lot of meetings. It's a lot of. I've worked with Trish Brett, who's the juvenile services supervisor. I've worked with her closely for at least 10 years. We've traveled together to a couple trainings. She's great. I think it's just staying in touch. Answering those calls as soon as you possibly can, letting them know that you're there for whatever that they need. I've gone out to Woodside Juvenile Rehabilitation Center in Colchester. Is it Colchester, Essex? Right on the line. Colchester.
Yeah. Yep.
A few times to meet youth, even on a Friday, late on a Friday evening. I went out there to assess a youth and to offer some support, and I think that's a great system, because then when they come back to the community, they're going to see the same person that went and visited them and one time had a fried chicken dinner with them at Woodside. Great food there. So I think it's even more important that way we can get kids back to the community and they see a friendly face.
And we do a lot of partnering. So I know our treatment court case manager, if we have kids that do get sent out of the community, they have gone out to, like, say, if the kiddo is placed in Ludlow, they'll go to Ludlow and visit the kid while they're there to help prepare for that transition back to the community. So I think we've even had our treatment court case manager drive a couple youth to Valley Vista if they needed inpatient treatment. So we really try and partner very closely with DCF and also, put the kids first. So sometimes if it's a more comfortable situation to have a treatment course case manager drive them, because that's somebody that they're trust and that they're comfortable with, we'll work with DCF to make that work. Yeah.
Now, I also understand that NCSS is currently partnering with Northwestern Pediatrics to co-locate a substance clinician. How has that been working?
It's been going okay. So actually, that's me. So I'm available one day to go to Northwest Pediatrics. We started, I want to say, last October, and things have been slow at first, but it's a new partnership. Sure. But I am available to see the youth right there on site. We have 2 pediatric social workers through Blueprint that are already on site at Northwest Pediatrics, and that's how the referrals come my way. So the nurses, the doctors can let the pediatric social workers know if there's a need for substance treatment, and then they can say, hey, Kayla, we've got a referral for you. So I have completed a couple assessments right on site there. Again, that the warm handoff can be very helpful, because you can always say, like, here's a number to call, but the fact that I can be right there and sit in a room and they can introduce me and they can see that I'm a friendly face, and I can explain the whole process of this is the assessment we're going to do and this is what it's going to be like. I think that's been really helpful, and so that's why we've done so much outreach and trying to go to a place where youth already are. Those warm handoffs really make a difference in getting youth to engage.
Yeah, there is no question that the integrated healthcare model for us and a lot of the programming is so critical, and you're so right when you talk about the warm handoff and not having to get a piece of paper that says here's a referral number to call.
Yep.
And then if the person truly does call that number, which we know everyone doesn't, so this is a way to really engage people and really help them in all facets to try to overcome certain
And I started in the St. Albans office, but we found there's also some referrals out of Swanton. So I've been flexible. I can go to the Swanton Pediatric office. I can be in St. Albans. Wherever the referral is needed, I can travel, and that also helps with transportation difficulties. So,
sure,
yeah.
Absolutely. Now, NCSS contracts with Franklin West Supervisory Union to provide a student assistant profession in prevention. Can you explain how that works?
Sure. So I think now we've been doing that about 1.5 years. So the school district gets money from ADAP, Alcohol and Drug Abuse Programs, for a prevention position. And in this case, they've chose to contract with NCSS to hire that person. So right now it's Joanne Saunders is our SAP, and she's really on site and as an available resource to all the students. So in the field of prevention. So it doesn't necessarily just have to be substance, although that's a big piece. She's there to kind of bring in resources if they're needed. So I think she's worked on, she saw that there was a need for some resources on relationships. So she's brought in staff to kind of give presentations or do assemblies. And then she's also available as well to go to health classes and talk about substance use and give some psychoed to the students. In addition to that, Joanne has the ability to do some short screening. So if the school says, hey, this is a kiddo we're worried about, we think they might be dabbling in some substance use, she can complete a short screening with them. And if there are some red flags coming up, then she can help with that warm handoff to a clinician and discuss what it might look like to have an assessment and access other treatment. In addition to substance, she can also refer for mental health services or any other service in the community. So she really is just kind of a resource right there, an additional person who is available to connect students with the resources that they need.
Now, what impacts have you observed from the opioid epidemic in our community?
I think this community, like other communities, is struggling, has been struggling for quite some time. First we had the prescription pill epidemic. When the prescriptions were stopped on those, people saw communities as a limitless flow of income, and heroin, is definitely brought into our community. So while we don't have youth necessarily using that themselves, their families are. You know, their parents are, their older siblings are, their aunts and uncles are, other people in their family. Like it's hard pressed sometimes to find youth that don't have some sort of experience or knowledge of this epidemic and the use. The youth that we have identified that do have, so I think it was, we went through our caseload, we needed some data numbers, and I think it was like 70%
Right.
of the youth on our caseload have some sort of familial exposure to heroin, to opioid use, which is 70% is a pretty, it's a pretty large number, unfortunately. But I think on the other hand, we also have some great things happening in this community for that. I sit on the CHARM meeting, which is a collaboration between the Department of Health, Northwestern Medical Center, and CSS, and I'm sure there's somebody
Department of
else.
Health.
Department of Health, and it's Children and Recovering Mothers. Did I get it?
Yeah.
I always stumble on those. But once a month we get together, actually meet with mothers who are in recovery using the medication-assisted therapy and treatment. So that's been really interesting to see that this community coming together to support these moms and making good choices for themselves and their babies moving forward. And I also sit on the MAT neighborhood meeting, which is that's people from everywhere, from all across the community in different areas. I think I met someone from here. Was that one meeting from the Northwest Access Television was there. Department of Health, doctors' offices, all across law enforcement to come together to try to support the community and people who need that support.
And I think we've been lucky as a community. We have Caring Communities as a partner,
Yes.
and they have a grant right now to address these issues of trying to lower the access to opioids. And so they've had a lot of initiatives out there about taking back medications and trying to get those out of home so that people don't have access to them, you know, or aren't at risk of them being stolen, that
Yes.
sort of thing.
Well, we just had the bag. They have, and I know it came from the Department of Health on Caring Communities. Folks were both on that email. We were offered their pre-addressed, pre-stamped envelopes that people can take, put their unused medication in, and then send it to a central site to be disposed of properly, which is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That one was
Yeah.
very recent. We just
Very recent.
Friday.
Yep.
Friday, I think I put the email out about that, and we had approval to post stands with those bags in at both 130 Fisher Pond Road and 107 Fisher Pond Road to support in getting the medications out of the people's homes.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we like to bring up is we know that the opioid epidemic has led to more children going into custody. So we like to plug that there's always a need for foster homes.
Yes.
Or respite.
Or respite.
Mentoring.
Yes.
There's so many different ways that we can support youth in this community. It doesn't have to be, providing a home. That you could provide some respite care. There's mentoring. There's so many different ways, so many different levels that we can support these youth and let them know that they matter and that they're important to us.
Well, I want to thank both of you for all the work that you do and your teams in trying to assist this community with the situation.
Thank you.
So I want to thank my guests, Kayla Tatro and Mary Groton, for sharing their insights on addressing adolescent substance use in our community. Now, before we go, it's time for NCSS Factoid of the Month. Even though the month of September serves as Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, at NCSS, we want to make certain that this topic is in the forefront 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Among the many specialty services made available to the community, NCSS offers prevention programs by facilitating mental health first aid and youth mental health first aid trainings. In addition, we have adolescent services, community services, outpatient crisis, and mobile crisis available in your time of need. NCSS provides confidential services and programs to residents struggling with suicidal thoughts. NCSS is here for you with services to assist if you or someone you know is struggling with suicidal thoughts. NCSS, you may not know us, until you need us. I also want to thank you, the viewer, for spending time with us again this month. You can learn more about NCSS Adolescent Services and all of our programs and services by logging on to ncssinc.org. I'm Joe Halco, and I'll be back next month with another episode of NCSS Here for You.
This has been another episode of NCSS Here for You. We hope that you found today's discussion informative and educational. Since 1958, Northwestern Counseling and Support Services has been providing access to high-quality services which promote healthy living and emotional well-being to the residents of Franklin and Grand Isle counties. Over the years, as the needs of the community have changed, so too have the programs and services that we make available to assist children, adolescents, adults, families, and seniors. Thanks once again for tuning in this month. NCSS's purpose remains creating a stronger community, one person at a time.